between the x and y variable, and based on that it will identify the next value of the y variable. So in both of them, basically there are two basic algorithms which we must know. Linear regression, which is under your regression supervised learning, whereas logistic regression, which is under your classification supervised learning, right? So in linear regression, what happens is it is basically a method to predict the value of target variable, which is based on your feature variables, right? So what is it? It is to predict the dependent variable y based on the value of independent variable x, right? It is basically used for the cases where we want to predict some continuous quantity, correct? So this line, it will just go on increasing based on all the previous values, correct? Now in this, the main formula or the standard equation for linear regression is that y equal to b0 plus b1x plus e. Okay, e is the error or deviation in the predicted value as compared to the actual value, right? B1 is your independent variable, B1 is your slope and x is your independent variable. Now x is independent variable means kya hua? It is nothing but your feature value, right? Which is there, which is stored in your data set, right? Whereas B0 is nothing but the value where your dependent, that is target variable, and independent variable are getting intersected. It is that point. That is, it is the next predicted value. Okay. If we want to see the example of this, then for example, I have monthly sales and I have advertising cost which I am spending every month, and I want to predict the next month's sale. Then in that case, in such kind of cases, linear regression is very well, right? So these kind of analysis, especially business related data analysis, they will still be using the machine learning algorithms, especially regression. Okay, now opposite to this is your logistic regression. Logistic regression is one of the very well known algorithm which is being used for the task of classification. Okay, here what we do not have any continuous value prediction, right? Here we have a target variable category. Either the category is 0 or the category is 1. Okay, and our feature variable, that is our independent variable, can either belong to either category 0 or they can belong to category 1. Right? So this is exactly what your classification is. Right? So depending upon the values of my input, I will put them into these two kind of dependent variable categories. Okay, so it is a method used to predict a dependent variable given a set of independent variables such that dependent variable is categorical. Okay, it is not a continuous value, right? Now, based on this idea only, we have a standard equation for your logistic regression as well. Okay, where we say that y is the probability of an event to happen which you are trying to predict, right? Which means that either it will belong to category A or there is a probability that it might belong to category B. Okay, C is a constant value and x1 and x2 are your input feature values. That is the independent variable values. Okay, now again an example if we want to take that to predict if a student will get admitted to a school based on CGPA, right? So what will be my categories? Either he will get admission or he will not get the admission, right? And that is based on the CGPA. So based on the CGPA, 0 for example, if I am saying he's getting admission, 1 I am saying he's not getting the admission, or a vice versa. And based on that, the same classification curve is plotted the way we have seen in the previous slide. Now these are some of the very popular supervised algorithms, and now I hope so that all of you now will be a little bit more familiar with the algorithms. So the supervised learning algorithms are basically divided into three sections. The first is the linear algorithms, in which we have seen these two types, that is linear regression and logistic regression. Logistic regression used for classification, linear regression is used for your normal regression type, correct? There are tree based supervised algorithm as well, okay, that is decision tree, random forest and gradient boosting. Now what is the difference between these two types of algorithms? In linear regression or in logistic regression, what we do, we try to arrange them into categories based on the features that we have received, right? But in tree based algorithm, what it does is it I'm sure all of you are aware with, you know, graphs or binary tree traversals. So what we do, we start with the root and then we see that, okay, if this is the condition, then go to left, or this is the condition, go to right. Okay, and in this way it will come to a decision and predict whether the category of this picture is a cat or the category of this picture is a dog, right? So again, it is based on features itself, but all the features then gets arranged in a tree like structure, and based on that tree then the decision is taken, and the root of the tree is also again a feature itself. Okay, then a variation to the decision tree is random forest and gradient boosting. Okay, and then what happened when the number of amount of data got increased, as well as the number of features also got increased, then even tree based algorithms were found not to be, you know, too much efficient. Why? Because then again, arranging all the features in the form of decision tree, the decision tree itself were getting too much big, right? So the concept of neural network came into the picture, where they said that no, we will not arrange these features in any kind of fashion, not in linear fashion, not in logistic fashion, or in a tree fashion. What we will do is we will prepare a hidden network. Hidden network will have multiple filters to the features. So in the first filter, all the features will get considered, that is 15. After that, in the next network, out of those 15, I might select only 7 features which will go ahead and which will help me to identify that yes, this image is of a cat, right? And in this way, when it will go via multiple hidden filters, ultimately I will get exact features which will help me to identify that this is a cat, right? And extension of these neural network is nothing but the concept of your deep learning, where these neural networks are completely automated and the input is just the image that we have to give, and we don't have to provide any kind of learning to this network. Okay, so these are some of the famous classification algorithms. So पहले हम लोगों ने what we have seen classification and regression. After that we have seen some common supervised algorithms, and now in that, now again we are moving ahead to specialized algorithms, which are especially classification algorithms. Okay, so these are 5 maximally used classification algorithms. Naive Bayes, especially generally Naive Bayes is used when you have huge large data sets available, right? Decision trees, they are very easy to understand, but again the issue is that they can't work on large data sets, and generally very soon they start suffering from the problem of overfitting, right? SVM, again, it's a very fast algorithm and especially useful when the number of features, input features that you are considering is more, which means that the dimensionality of your data set is more. Then in that case, SVM is very, very good. Okay, random forest, it is better than decision trees, right? But again, the same thing, that applying random forest to huge amount of data set is still, it will suffer with the performance issues, right? And last is the KNN algorithm. KNN is also one of the oldest but very good algorithms in this case. Okay, so we are done with today's session, right? And quickly we will start with the demo. Till that time, all of you can ask questions or any doubts if you have regarding today's session. Santosh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So you can quickly start sharing the screen so that we can start the demo.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So Santosh is our third year student and he is working with us in implementing many of the machine learning projects. And so he has good hands-on knowledge on machine learning, and he is very enthusiastic about teaching machine learning. So I thought that along with me, I can take him to give you some hands-on for Python.
Ma'am, is it visible?
Yes, dear, it's visible.
Okay, ma'am. So can we start?
It is, yeah, it is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so hello all. My name is Santosh Saxena. So let us start with the linear regression. So in linear regression, as ma'am said, we have two as one independent variable as well as a dependent variable. So a quick exercise, can someone tell me what will be the value of x when x is equals to 10? What will be the value of y when x is equals to 10 by looking at this
Santosh,
data set?
yeah, Santosh, can you share your
20.
complete desktop? Because somehow again and again
20.
the screen is fluctuating.
Okay, visible now?
Visible है,
Yes.
but half of the portion ही visible हो रहा है संतोष.
Yes, ma'am. तो वो मैंने zoom करके रखा है because नीचे आंसर है ना.
अच्छा.
20.
Yes, so as one of you answered that y will be 20, our brain just took this value as 2 and multiply with the value of x. So we got the value as 20. So the calculation is done by like this. Like here we plot all the points like 1 is equals to 2, 2 equals to 4, 3 equals to 6. And by looking at the data set, our brain has calculated the value of m as 2. And after this, here it is what we got the answer. So in linear regression, what we try to do is we try to make a best fit line which will give us the least possible error, so that our predictions can be done with a good amount of accuracy. So can someone tell me the answer of this? Because it's a little bit complex one and our brain is not able to, does not have that much capability to calculate. Can anyone? Okay, so at the end we will able to give this logic to machine so that we will be able to find this answer. So first of all, what we try to do is we try to find the error between our actual value and the predicted value. So here is something which is known as cost function or error function or loss function. There are many terms by which we can recognize this term. This value is actually y actual minus y predicted, though this is a simple error formula, but we can't use this formula directly. Can someone tell me why? Because the error may be positive or maybe negative sometimes, so it might lead to 0, which is not true. We can't actually not take the mod of this error, because by taking mod the graph would be like this and x is not differentiable at 0. So what we have to do is we usually take square of these values. So the the cost function is something like 1 by n summation of y actual minus y predicted ka square. Can someone have question up till now? Any questions or everything is clear? Hello.
Yeah, Santosh.
Hello, sir. Can you one more time explain why we are not taking mod and doing it
Yes.
by square?
Okay. If we take mod, the graph would be something like this. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
And
I mean few values will get cut like that. Few positive, few negative will. give this? Is it?
Yes, the error will be cancelled. So actually, our goal is to, we are not supposed to take the sign of, we only take the magnitude, so that the error will not be cancelled out, and we get the result. So the thing is, we need to eliminate the sign. So for eliminating, the first step we can take is mod, which I told, which is not right, because mod is not differentiable at x equals to 0. So what we do is we take the square. So as we will take the square, this will the sign will be eliminated. Agree?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So is error function is clear to everyone? Because we will use this error function in further.
Santosh, you can start with Python demo first, and then in between you can switch to this PDF.
Okay, no
Because
problem.
without that, no, they will not understand that where exactly this is being used.
Okay. So here is what, let me show you first the data set. This is the Titanic data set.
And what is the problem statement? Why we are
Yes.
using this Titanic data set?
So this is actually details of all the passengers who are available at the Titanic, and we have to predict that how many of can survive, and how many of them died. So this is actually the problem statement. We have a passenger ID, they survived. This is the column which we have to predict. The class of the passenger, whether it is economy class or business class. Here is the name, gender, age, number of siblings available in the Titanic, number of parents, the ticket information, fare, and cabin name, and from where they are onboarded. Okay, so is the data set is clear?
Yes, so this is a classification problem which you are showing.
Yes. So here is something which the libraries I have loaded. First, we load the NumPy, as ma'am is already clear told what is NumPy actually. Pandas, Matplotlib for visualization. Seaborn is also used for visualization. Plotly is also used for visualization. Then we took from sklearn train test late, and some of the metrics like accuracy and confusion matrix, classification report, ROC, EOC, and
Okay, just
some of
wait for
the
1 minute here. Now,
okay.
guys, see, in the morning we have seen the Python libraries which were available, right? So NumPy, we have seen that NumPy is basically used as your data structure. So for array, NumPy is used. Pandas is basically used for your data analysis, which we have to do. Now, if you see, we have used here the Jupyter Notebook, right? We have said import library named as NumPy as, and then we have given a short form to each of the libraries, so that ahead what I can say, referring to these libraries will become easier. Okay. Next, if now each and every library comes with its own additional features. Because of that reason, now Santosh has imported Matplotlib also, Seaborn also, and Plotly also. Even though all three of them, the purpose of all of them is basically for data visualization. Okay, and the framework which we have seen in the morning, that is scikit-learn. Okay, so scikit-learn, when you use that in Jupyter Notebook, the short form for that is sklearn, but it is the same one. Okay, under that, now as we have said that scikit-learn itself is a complete framework where you will find algorithms as well as the other features. So other features, what are those other features? Those are like that when I want to calculate the accuracy score of that algorithm, right? Next is now this random forest classifier. This is the uh, algorithm, actual algorithm. Logistic regression is the algorithm, right? Then standard scaler is basically a method that we basically use for data pre-processing. Okay, next is now confusion matrix or ROC or AUC. All of them are nothing but your performance, what I can say, performance parameters, right? So Under scikit-learn, if you observe, we have taken multiple sub-modules of that. Some are algorithms, some are your performance parameters, some libraries are for your pre-processing, and some are for calculating the accuracy in this way, right? So now understand the difference between sklearn and numpy. NumPy is just one single library. It do not have multiple, then it's what I can say, multiple sub components, whereas sklearn is a framework. So sklearn has its own number of sub modules or sub libraries, and depending upon our requirement, then we can import the ones which is needed. Yeah, Santosh, now you can carry forward.
Yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, actually, I am very new to this Python and all. So I thought maybe if you can just explain how to download this Python and how the basic window come, and then how we import this all the algorithm, that will be good for me. Actually, I don't miss.
Ashwin, basically, see again, first of all, you have to download the environment. So Jupyter Notebook, if you will directly go online and create your login, you can easily start working on the Jupyter Notebook, right? And Santosh, is there any other process? So Ashwin is basically asking that how I mean, do I need to download these files anywhere or anything? But basically what is that Jupyter Notebook has inbuilt all these access to the libraries. Every time you just have to give a call to all these libraries.
So basically, Plotly is the only library which you have to download after installing Anaconda. Rest all the libraries are available in the Anaconda.
Yeah, so first tell them what is Anaconda, because in the morning I forgot to mention details about
Okay, so Anaconda is nothing but it is a framework where you can get all the possible IDs and stuff related to data science. So this is actually Anaconda looks like. You can directly search for Anaconda download and you will get the updated version of Anaconda. You can download it from there, and this sort of application will be there on your screen. So as you can see, there are Jupyter Labs, Jupyter Notebook, Python console, Spider, VS Code, and lots of stuff. So what we are using is we are using Jupyter Notebook as of now. So let me tell you how to download.
No, that's okay. Now we can go ahead with the code. Otherwise, तो ये 2 घंटे में भी खत्म नहीं होगा.
Yes, ma'am. So here what I'm doing is with the help of pandas, I am reading a CSV file, and here I am providing the path where my CSV file is there in the system. So my file is available in this directory. You can check it from there. It is available in this directory. So the path of this directory is given here, and from desktop to this folder, from raw dataset and train.csv. So this data frame is loaded. So I am what I am doing here is data frame.head. So I am reading first 4 rows of the data frame. So let me just show you. Let me just run it. So as you can see, here is the data set loaded in my df variable. And what I am doing here is df.head means it will give me the 4 rows of the data frame. Similarly, as of if you write tail, so it will give you the last 4 rows of the column of the data set. Now what I am doing here is df.info. So I am getting all the information of the data set with this command. So as you can see, all the columns are there, and all the features are there, like it has 891 values which are non-null, and the data type is int, object, float, like this. You will be able to see with the help of info.
So guys, this is basically the step of data exploration. That once you load the data set, then if you want to see the details about the data set, that what kind of data types are there, how many values are available, are there any null values, then that can be seen using this data exploration step.
So the next command is df.describe. So this describe will give you all the information related to dataset, like what are the count, what is mean, standard deviation, and minimum values. So let us discuss this. Yes.
Hi, why it is showing only 4 values, first 4 and last 4? We are not giving any argument in that tail.
You can give argument. So if you will write the number, so that number of data set it will be shown. Suppose if I write 6, so 6 values is shown. So by default it takes 4 argument.
Okay.
And you can check this by adding tab and shift. So if you just press command shift and tab to your computer, so it will show you all the details about this command. So it is not very difficult to actually learn something. Python is very easy. And if you use Jupyter Notebook, you will get this sort of help. So you can go further with it. Okay. So am I making sense?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So let us talk about describe function. So these are all the features which has numerical values. So we can get some of the statistical information with the help of describe. So here is the count that how many no, features are available, data samples are available in our data frame. So as you can see, the age has something missing, some missing values. So here the count is less. So like this only we can get mean. It is the mean of all the data set, standard deviation, minimum. Now this is something which is very important. This is 25th percentile. So at what from 0 to 25th number, what is the number available at 25th percent? So I think I need to have some of the white screen to show this.
No,
Okay, so
it's
let me.
it's visible.
It's visible.
Yeah, yeah, it's visible.
So suppose you have number from 1 to 10. So this is your something 25th percentile. So the 25th percentile is this value because this is 1/4 of your value. And if as you study this data set, the 25th percentile is this, 50th percentile is this 5 value, and then 75th percentile is 8, and 100th percentile, that is maximum, is 10. So these are the values which are given here. Now some of the data is missing over here because all the data set doesn't contain numerical values like name and gender. These are the values which do not have numerical values, so these values are discarded over here. So how to get the information of that? So for that, uh, let us discuss df.data types. Will give you data type of all the values. So what we want is we want the data frame which is object. So this will. So as you can see, all the values which are object is true in this case, rest of them are false. So df.data type will again give me these data type. These features are some which has the data type object. So like this we can extract this data set. So if now I will call this again in a data frame. So we will get this data frame which do not have numerical value. So if now I write describe here, so answer is this will pop up. So this has some different features like you will get count, unique values, how many unique values are there, in which top which of the statement is occurred most, like, and the frequencies. What is the frequency of all the top values? So now what we are doing is we are checking the null values. As you can see, our describe function also indicated that we have null values in age. So df.is null will give us all the true false type values, and when we calculate when we total it all, so we will get this all values. So that is why there are two functions, is null and sum. Look like this. If there is null value, then it is indicated as true, else false. So when we'll write this sum function here, so this will give us all the values. So as we can see, age is something which we have null values, and cabin values which has null values. So
So
what we
guys,
will do is,
just 1 second. Huh? What are we doing all these things? We are doing the first initial steps of feature engineering. Okay, we are not doing feature selection or feature reduction, nothing. We are just doing feature engineering. that by loading the data set, we are just trying to analyze the data set first. Yeah, Santosh, you can continue.
Yes. So as you can see, the embarked value has very little missing value. So what we can do is we can eliminate all the values of embarked, because only two rows will be eliminated, and that won't affect our data set. So what I done is I dropped all the values of embarked, which has embarked as null values, and in place equals to true means it was updated to the data frame. And now what I am doing is I am comparing all the features to each other with respect to our target variable. For example, if here passenger, how P class is related to survived, how this age is related to survived. So we will get the in-depth information of each of our feature with respect to our target variable. So this is something which I done for deck. For what is, we have something related like cabin, as you can see in this data frame, which has most of the NaN values. So what we need to find all these values with respect to our, what we can say, cabin has most of the null values, so we will do something with it. So as you can see, I have selected a deck. So what I am doing is I am with respect to cabin, I am extracting the cabin deck number. As you can see, B42. So we don't want 42. We want only this deck number, which is B, or in this here it is C. So we want to extract that. So for that, code is written, which will give me all the values of deck, which is available in the cabin section. So that is converted into data frame, like deck values are there and survived values are there. So is deck relationship is clear? So let us move further. So what we are doing is we are extracting the features with respect to deck, how many of them are survived, how many of them are dead. So for that, we created a column. These all are the deck available in the Titanic dataset. With respect to these decks, how many passengers are available, how many survived, how many died, what is the survival by death ratio, what is the survival rate, and what is the death rate. These are the features derived with respect to this deck column. So what we are doing is we are doing the feature engineering where in which we are comparing the deck with respect to survival rate, and this is the data frame which we get, and the code is written here. It's simple code like a number of passengers minus number of survived, so we will get the death number of death people, death ratios, and all these formulas. So we got this data frame. This will be saved in our CSV file. This is actually a plot of which we have derived of our derived data set. Okay, so this is actually a Plotly library which I installed. So the next of our feature is embarked. Embarked feature has three values, as I am doing pd.categorical. So all the unique values which are available in the embarked feature will be shown here. So there are three embarked features, C, Q, and S. So I will do the same step. Which embarked people, how many passengers are embarked at that point, how many of them are survived, how many of them are dead. The same step I am doing here, and accordingly visualization is also there. So what this will do is this will give us the insights about data so that we can select algorithm accordingly. Similarly for P class, in P class what we are doing is first we are seeing how many categorical values, how many unique values are there in P class. So we got three values, which is business class, economy class, and other. So as you can see, here is the tier, upper, middle, and lower, which indicates this number. And what we are doing is we are making a data frame accordingly with respect to the survival rate of available in the data frame. Am I making sense up till now? Any questions?
So see, basically what we have done till now, we have not applied any algorithm. We are just exploring the data set and looking at that what kind of relation is present between various features of my data set, right? So in this case, what are my features? All the attributes or the columns of my data set are my features. right? So number of passengers, then survived, then I'm trying to see that is there any connection between age and survived, is there any connection between cabin and survived, कि उस cabin के ज़्यादा लोग survive हुए, इस cabin के कम लोग survive हुए. So that exploration is going on currently, right Santosh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So similarly for gender, and now I think I can skip this. SIBSP, the same thing is done. Yes. Now this is up till now, which is categorical data are available. Now what is if the data is continuous? So we can't apply the relationship like if this then what, if this then what. So for age, what we can do is we can draw such kind of plots. So these are the age groups, and this is the survived rate. Like 0 is means it is not survived, and 1 is it is survived. And here is something which is known as box plot. So what box plot does is it shows which are the plots which is available in inside the range and which are the outliers. So as you can see, these are the plots which is outliers with respect to this age section. And in the right, we are showing histogram that what is the quantity available for the survived people and what is the quantity available for dead peoples. So as you can see, survived is these are the 549 counts which is not survived, and here is 340 counts which is survived. So we have this sort of data set which is quite balanced, so we can do it further. Otherwise what we have to do is we have to sample this. If the number of survived people is less than the number of dead people, so we need to sample this. Let me give you an example. Suppose I have a, what example we can give? If survived uh,
No, see, again, once
yeah.
again, it is the same thing that we have already discussed this, Santosh, in the morning, that the data set which you are providing to your model must be a balanced data set. Right now, in this case, if we are trying to find out the survival rate, which means that my data set should have details of the people who have survived, as well as it should have the details of the people who have not survived in almost equal numbers. This we have to do because without doing this, otherwise the model will not be able to learn the features properly.
Yes, so I think yes, ma'am.
Right. So now move ahead.
So this is the same thing which is done with respect to fair. So this is up till now what we are doing is we are exploring the data and we are finding the relations that what we can do. Yes, we also calculated, because as you can see the deck value is very much missing in our data set. So we tried to calculate the deck value with respect to the classes value which we have available. So accordingly, this value is being generated with respect to that, even though we haven't used in our data set in our training the model, but then too we train. So yes, so now what we are doing is we are trying to find the correlation between all the features which are available in our data set. So this is the correlation matrix, as you can see, and it is more beautifully designed in the by using heat map.
But then you also explain
So
them the
let
meaning
me
of
just
this correlation.
yes. So what is the meaning of correlation? We can say correlation means nothing but relation. Like when we say A is directly proportional to B, then at that time that two values are correlated to each other. Similarly, inversely proportional or equal. Then we can say this is something which is correlation. So what this graph shows is passenger ID is highly correlated with passenger ID. You can see this. Similarly, survived feature is highly correlated with survived feature. So with respect to this, passenger ID has correlation of minus 0.005 with survived. So like this, all the values are calculated with respect to each other. For like embarked, correlation with respect to passenger ID, embarked correlation with respect to survived people, embarked correlation with respect to P class, embarked correlation with respect to gender, embarked correlation to age. Like this we are calculating, and as we calculated the cabin value with respect to
embarked values, as you can see here, the correlation is very much high. So this is the correlation matrix. As long as we are how many features we are taking now, as we will go for feature extraction, we will see that now we will eliminate some of the features with respect to this correlation matrix. So what we are trying is we are giving calling label encoder. Now what this label encoder will do, this will assign all the labels with respect to number. Suppose male equals to 0 and female equals to 1. So all this sort of work will be done by label encoder. So it is done with respect to gender, cabin, and embark, because as you can see here are here are some categorical values, and we need to convert into labels before feeding it to machine. So this is what after which our data set looks like. Here the gender is converted into ones and zeros, and cabin is converted into numbers, embarked is converted into numbers, and so on.
Right. So
So
just 1 second. See, in the morning we have seen that for feature engineering there are various methods, right? So one is how to fill the missing values, and last method that we have seen was one hot encoding. Right? In one hot encoding, what was happening? The text value, we were trying to replace that with the numerical value so that the data set will become more easier for the model to understand. This is that exact same step that we are doing. So gender, if it was male and female, so instead of that, we have replaced that with a numerical value of 0 and 1. Yes, Santosh, you can continue.
yes, so what we can do is now we can extract our data set into our dependent variable and independent variable and dependent variable. So our X values contains all the features which are available as our features which we can process to find our target variable, that is survived. So as you can see, here is the data related to X and related to Y. So now what we are doing, we will select the importance of the features. Now which feature is most important to our target variable. So what we have done is we have called the random forest classifier, and we have fitted our model with all the features to our random forest classifier. So what this random forest will give us, this random forest will give us the importance of all the features with respect to their percentage. So the importance of P class is 14%, gender is 47%, and siblings is 12% accordingly. So as you can see, here is the graph, here is the data frame which shows all the features and with respect to their importance with this graph. So as you can see, the gender is one of the most important features which gives us the chances of survived very easily. Rest of them are least important. So but we can select 3 features for our processing. Like we will ignore these features because these are not correlated with our target variable. So this will anyway not be able to be used in further. So this is the same graph. So yes, now what we are doing, we are calling each and every model. As you can see, here is we have a support vector classifier, we have KNN classifier, we have SGD classifier, logistic regression classifier, AdaBoost. These are all the classifiers available. What we will do is we will select these 3 features by looking at the graph, and we will take these features as our independent variable, and our Y is survived actually. So now here is the training and testing splitting done. So X train and X test, Y train and Y test will be getting the values from X and Y with the random state of 100. Now what is random state? It's generally a picking sequence. So the accuracy which I will get will be different with respect to yours because you have not set this random state. If you will set this random state as equal to 100, then your value and my value will be same. So with respect to this random state is there. So this is actually the X feature which we will going to feed our model to train. And what I have done here is I have written algorithm name and their accuracy, and what I will try to do is I will try to store the algorithm name with respect to their accuracy to get the insight of which algorithm is giving me the most highest possible accuracy. So here is random forest classifier is called, and I have used cross validation score. So ma'am, have you covered cross validation score?
Dear, in the morning, I have given them the concept about validation test.
Okay, so
set.
what this cross validation will do, it will divide your X data set with respect to few points and try to check each and every score and give it back to us. So this model is trained with respect to X train and Y train, and what he is doing, it is dividing this X data set within some points and try to predict and give us the score. So as you can see here, the data set is divided into 5 parts and predicted accuracy is given to us. Sorry. Similarly, for yes, what I am doing is I am appending this accuracy to our list so that we can use it further for analyzing. So this is for random forest, this is for SVC, this is for KNN classifier, this is for logistic regression, this is for AdaBoost classifier, this is for gradient boosting classifier, bagging
So these are
classifier,
basically regression type classifiers.
classifier problems, extra tree classifier, and here is something which we got the list. So as you can see, gradient boost algorithm has given us the highest accuracy. So we will use this algorithm to predict our Titanic dataset. As you can see, here is the graph available for all the algorithms with respect to their accuracy. So the accuracy which we got with respect to X train and Y train, now what we are doing is we are testing this data with our test data set. So the accuracy which we got is 82%. Agreed? Does anyone have queries up till now so that we can start with the performance measures?
Now see, I hope everyone is now understanding the exact flow which we have seen in the today's morning theory lecture, right? So, I mean, is there any term where there is any kind of confusion? So in between, iske pehle, what we have done is we have divided the data set again into training and hyperparameter tuning, and in that then we have seen the accuracy of all algorithms on some certain validation data set. Okay, and in that then we saw that gradient boost is giving a better result, and based on that, for whatever data set or the chunk of data set that we have selected for testing, then we applied that here, and for the test data set now we are getting 82% of the accuracy. So is there any confusion in the flow of the code? Santosh, wait for 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone? Everybody clear what we have done? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Good. So Santosh, move ahead now.
So now we will analyze our model with some of the performance measures. So first, what we will do is we will call the confusion matrix wala library, and we will get the confusion matrix like this. So what we are doing is we are getting the values of true positive, true negative, and false positive, false negative. So ma'am, have you covered these concepts?
No, dear, not today. It has been covered. I will cover this tomorrow.
Okay, ma'am. So let me take these values. So what this means here is the values is true positive. True positive means what? The passenger has survived and the model has classified it correctly. And here is true negative means the model has classified it correctly and the person is dead. So means T means model has classified correctly. And positive negative means the classifiable variables, which is 0 and 1, our survived or dead. Now what is false means? False means the model has not classified correctly. So this we can say as false negative, false positive. Now why so false positive? Because model has not classified properly. Model has shown the passenger has survived, but it has actually dead. So this is actually comes under false positive. Positive with respect to the machine, what machine is giving. So if it is false positive when machine is saying that it is survived, and where it has died actually. So this is false positive. Similarly, false negative, where machine is not classifying correctly. Machine is saying the passenger has died, but in the other case, the passenger has survived. So these all are the columns which are available in confusion matrix. It's actually confusing. We need to revise this thing very thoroughly. So what we have doing is, after this we are calculating the accuracy. So what is the formula for calculating the accuracy? Is true positive plus true negative divided by true positive plus true negative plus false positive plus false negative. Agree? Does everyone agree with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
So let us discuss something which is recall. So what is recall? What are the actual true cases available? With respect to that, now we are trying to calculate. So this is true positive divided by. Now how true positive will be there. Now what machine is doing? These values. What machine is doing? These values are actually positive, but our machine has classified it wrong, right? False negative is the actual value which is actually positive, but machine has misclassified these values to negative. So in recall, we write this as a point. So with respect to this, recall is calculated, and the opposite to it is sensitivity or specificity. So the next is precision. Now precision, the formula is calculated with respect to machine point of view. So what is true positive divided by true positive plus how many false prediction given by machine which is positive. So this formula, this is the three formula which we were going to use for measuring analysis. So as you can see, the classification report does this job to us. So as you can see, you can get precision, recall. F1 score is nothing but F1 score is nothing but 2 multiplied by precision multiplied by recall divided by precision plus recall. This is the formula for F1 score. Now what we will do is we will try to find the area under curve which we have generated. So this is nothing but the score which we get by mentioning this thing as our values. Now the next thing, we will draw the curve. Curve for what? Curve the value which we got. So the ROC curve, this ROC curve function will generate the values and according to our model, and this will be stored in these variables. So what I did is I plot these values. So this graph we got. So now the 82% accuracy we got here is the 82% with this many false predictions and true predictions by keeping in mind. So it is good if the model is slightly towards upwards. The more it will go upward, the more better model it is. So this is actually, now this is actually a Kaggle problem. I did this for submission purpose. So here the model ends. What I will do further is now I will save this model with the help of Pickle. So our model which has got highest percent of accuracy will be saved like this. As you can see here, a Pickle library is called, and I save this model as a file. So this will be available in here. Look, Titanic.pickle. So this is our AI model. So we can load this model in wherever application we want to. So let me show you one of the demo. Like I have loaded this model in one of the web application. So till the time if anyone has
So how many of you have already started with some kind of hands-on practice of machine learning? Please raise your hands. Good. Anyone else? Good, but still very few members, huh?
So this is actually a web application
And
in which this AI model is embedded into it. So let me put some of the ages. Let me fill this column. So all the star marked values are necessary. If I miss any, if it will give me an error. Okay, so let me predict. So as you can see, our AI model is embedded into it, and it is working with this web application. Yes. And what we can do is we can also analyze this. So all the plots which are available, which we got in our coding sections, are available here. So we can also check. And source code is available in my GitHub repository. So now ma'am, shall we discuss linear and logistic regression theory?
no, I guess we should be wrapping up now. Because since morning they are listening to AI and machine learning, so it will become too much for all of them in one
Okay,
day.
ma'am.
Madam, hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Santosh is going to share his code or notebook with us because we can go through it.
Santosh, can you do this? Actually, he has prepared this code for one of the Kaggle competitions.
Okay. At
Uh,
least some pointers to tutorial or some kind of things for Kaggle Titanic dataset, or it is available on Kaggle.
The data set is available and the codes are also available. Don't worry, I will share this code. No problem.
Okay, we just want to go through some of the syntaxes because these particular libraries and the particular
That
things
is
we
necessary.
might
Okay.
require.
So what I do is I just give you this link. This link will help
Okay.
us to
Yeah.
reach
Can you put
my.
it in the conversation, please?
Yes. That is what I'm doing.
so how was today's session, everyone?
Nice one.
Was there something that all of you understood by today's session?
Very informative, madam.
It's very informative.
Good. So tomorrow, I mean, what you all would like to learn more, because tomorrow is the last session of mine, and after that, then Shilpa ma'am will take 2 more sessions. So tomorrow, I'm planning that we can move towards unsupervised learning a little bit more, right? And what else? I mean, is there something that you want all of you want me to teach, or something, some specific topic or anything? Or the way today we have shown you a demo of, this was mainly about the numerical classification. Tomorrow I was planning that we can show you a demo of deep learning. So CNN based image classification. Santosh, can
Madam,
we do that tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, we will work on something which is based on image, and CNN, we can show them CNN and RNN and how exactly that neural network is working,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So that will be an interesting application. Yeah.
madam, are you sharing your PPTs for today's lecture?
It will be little difficult, sir, but the recording to my lecture is completely available to all of you, so you can
Okay,
once
ma'am.
again go through that recording.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Because those PPTs are not completed yet, sir. I'm in process of
Okay.
fine-tuning them a lot. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
But I hope that all the basics are clear now for everyone. So even after this, now if you go and if you take some course or something, you'll be able to understand certain concepts. Right? So
Yes, ma'am.
tomorrow, Santosh, you will be showing something on CNN, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Right, and I will be taking some of the theory about unsupervised learning, and again I will see that what else I can teach, or if all of you would like me to suggest something, I can take those topics as well. I mean, something which all of you are facing issues to understand in AI and machine learning, then I will be happy to address that. Okay. Yeah, okay then. Thank you, everybody. And I think we can leave now, right? So if
Excuse me,
there
ma'am.
are,
Thank you,
yeah,
ma'am.
So, ma'am, how will the exam for this subject will be conducted?
uh, um, after my session tomorrow, there are two more sessions which are remaining, and those sessions will be taken by Shilpa ma'am. And on the last session, there will be a quiz of 15 marks which we will conduct. So again, that will be on basics of AI and machine learning. Whatever we are learning now, based on that only we will be conducting a quiz of 15 marks.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, and your lectures were really good. But for the new students like me, I wanted to know ki what is the sequence by which we can start with, and then go about like what we have to learn first and what. So that would be better if we get to know tomorrow. Like
Yes,
what is
ma'am.
the sequence?
Yes, ma'am. In addition to this, I also want to know which are the courses for the beginners to start and this programming.
Oh, ma'am, can
Okay.
I answer this question?
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, there are lots of facilities available in YouTube as well as various different platforms. My screen is visible, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can go for in YouTube. You can go for Krish Nayak channel. Let me write in the chat box. Krish Nayak is the person who is teaching all this stuff. And someone has asked the question that what is the flow for AI and ML. So first of all, you need to master one of the language. So for that, I suggest Python. Advanced Python is not required. Just intermediate Python is required. Then some of the libraries like NumPy.
Yes, that
Uh,
flow I have told them in the morning, that from where
okay.
they should start
So
implementation wise.
the libraries which are very much important for data science and machine learning is pandas, because you need to perform lots of exploratory data analysis as you shown here, as I shown. So pandas is something which it is very important, because when it comes to exploratory data analysis, you need to know all the commands which are available. So, and for visualization, all the libraries are almost same. The syntax is almost same. So for visualization, Matplotlib, Plotly, Seaborn, anything, any one library you do, rest of them you know by automatically. So after that, for deep learning, there are different libraries like TensorFlow, Keras, and for machine learning, Scikit-learn is there. So basically, for coding point of view in Python, you don't need to worry much about it, because Scikit-learn is one of the biggest package in which all the algorithms are available. You just need to call and feed the data. That is the thing. But the main is the important is theory. If you know the theory, then only you will be able to make a conclusion that okay, which algorithm I have to use in which type of data set. That is important. So that is why the main focus in AIML is theory, and coding is you can do in any language. No problem for that.
Right. See, what you all can do is just 1 second.
So any more questions?
Santosh,
Yes.
what was the interesting findings you get through this analysis? Which parameter was actually more uh, with the death rate or kind of thing? This kind of,
Yes.
can you please comment on that?
Yes, I have shown you one of the graph in which I have clearly mentioned that what is the importance of the features.
No, no, your exercise, what you found out for the which parameter was actually most related to the death rate according to your analysis?
Gender, because that is the one which I got. Actually, 50% of the correlation we can find with respect to gender and the death rate. And other thing is that correlation as such, rest of their features are also okay, but cabin is not at all worthy with respect to Titanic dataset, because in cabin lots of dataset are missing, and we can't do anything with related to
Yeah.
it.
Sense of gender, what was the confusion? Female died more or male died more?
Male died more.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the question which was asked by Shreyas was regarding, the courses and from where we should start. So first I would say that start with the basic courses of machine learning, and those basic courses also don't take it from Coursera directly, because Coursera courses are extremely good. They are standard machine learning courses, but at the same time, in case if you are very new to machine learning or AI ML, then in that case, first of all, you can take courses from Edureka, or you can take courses from Udemy, right? Or you can take courses from Upgrades. From there, take very short courses. Okay, from those short courses you will understand very basic of machine learning, and even after actually these lectures, now if you take it, then almost it will require just 50% of the time for you to understand the concepts of machine learning now, right? Once you take those courses and some of your basics is clear, after that then you can do courses from Coursera, especially the course from machine A to Z machine learning is there, and there is one more course from Stanford University that is also very good. Now those courses are but of 3 months or 4 months in this way. Okay, so slowly, but what will happen along with those courses, there are guided projects as well, where the way now today you have seen the demo of one of the Python code. In the similar way, they will also teach you that Python code, and parallelly you have to do that in the execution console. So that way the practice will happen more. Okay, apart from that, there are three blogs which are very good for machine learning. So the first is medium.com, the second is Towards Data Science, okay, and the third is Machine Learning Mastery. So all these three blogs are also very good, because sometimes it happens that some of the students are comfortable by first reading the content. Some of the students are comfortable now directly by watching the video. So depending upon your comfort level, you can start reading the basics even from these three blogs as well. Okay, and there are some of the books also available, like of Orally publications. You have books, from Pearson publications, you have some very good research books also available on machine learning. There are books which are on learning machine learning with Python, so they are also very good books. So depending upon, the medium or the learning medium you are comfortable with, either you can start with reading books, okay, or you can start with videos, and along with the videos you can go on reading the blogs as well. Why? Because blogs will again tell you little bit more details and nitty gritties about each and every step of machine learning model implementation. Okay, if you directly jump on the blogs, then some of the blogs you will find, and the language is also very easy, especially in Towards Data Science the language is very good, or Machine Learning Mastery, the language is very good. So even the basics can be covered from there as well, and then you go to the Coursera courses, and then you can also do the guided projects with them. Okay, the main thing that I would advise all of you is that don't only listen to the videos, don't only read data from the blogs, but whatever you read, try to implement it immediately. This way only you are going to learn AI and machine learning. There is, it's not going to happen that okay, for first 6 months I will just read about it, and after 6 months then I will slowly start the coding. This way it is not going to work at all. And again, the way Santosh has said, Python coding is extremely easy. So at least to start with, you can start with downloading the Anaconda environment, and in that start working on Jupyter. Okay, in Jupyter, and if you see, there are online so many tutorials are available, GitHub codes are readily available, there are guided videos available. So I mean, everything is available. You just have to come out of your comfort zone and start implementing. So every day make it a practice, especially the students who are very serious of using AI and machine learning, that daily one code you will implement in Python. And believe me guys, in another 15 days you will become so comfortable with that environment of Jupyter notebook. Slowly you will start with implementing too many codes. And then what is the advantage of this? Nowadays all the journals are basically, all the high-end research journals are making compulsory for all the research papers to submit their code on GitHub, and then give the link of that code with the paper, right? So when you will, for your research, when you will go through various research papers, you will also find the code of that research paper in the GitHub repository. You can open that code, okay, and you can go through that code. But when you will understand that code, you will understand that code when you have also implemented some kind of Python coding. Then only you will understand the syntax which they have written in that code, right? Once you will understand their code, you will understand the paper also in a better manner, correct? Once you understand the work which is done by others, you yourself will also get lot many ideas about that. How can I modify this code? How can I, propose an improvised idea based on the research paper? All these things. And then when you will implement, if you want to publish in good journals, again providing your code will also be compulsory there, right? So coding is must in AI and machine learning, and it is not at all difficult. Coding is easy. Only the thing is that all of you must start it. Right now, almost it's been 3 to 4 months that your PhD journey has started. This is the right time when all of you must look back and see कि मैंने पिछले 4 महीने में क्या किया. And again, attending coursework lectures, I would not consider it as work of PhD. Right, because that is a knowledge journey which you have started, and it is going to go on for next 3 to 4 years, right? So you cannot tell me that we were attending the course lectures and this is the work that we have done in PhD. No. How many students have gone back to their guides saying that I have learned this, I am doing this? How many students have taken that initiative? How many research papers have you read? How many new things have you started learning? It's been almost close. In another 1.5 months, you will be 6 months old in your PhD journey, right? And in your PhD, the first 2 years are the most crucial years. Why? Because the kind of PhD that you will do, the quality of the PhD will depend upon the amount of efforts that you put in initial first 2 years. Right? So today actually is a good time when all of you must sit back and reflect upon that what you have done in these last 4 months. Right? 4 months means more than 120 days. So what have you done in these 120 days? And is that 120 days ka time